Alright, so here's where we are. Or here's where we're not. I guess I should say, rather. Previously, you saw this in the Bridgeport, and he was running the end mill down there, and just as he was getting to the bottom, this came loose in the vise, and it wobbled around like this, and it opened up the hole, and instead of him checking to see if this would fit in the hole with a press fit like I wanted it, he just went ahead and drilled the next hole without realigning this back up with all the accuracy that we first put it together with. Consequently, this fell into the hole and rattled around loosely. So he breaks out the epoxy, and we put the epoxy in there. It was not JB Weld. I really didn't want it, but you try not to offend people. So I let it set for a couple of days. It was still soft. Two things are going to happen with soft epoxy. One, the fuel's going to eat it. Two, the heat's going to soften it up even more. So it's a no-go for that. That's why I use JB Weld. I never have those problems. So I gave it a little bit of this. And after about 15 seconds, grabbed onto a pair of needle nose pliers, came right out. All of the epoxy down in there was all still soft. Dug it out, blew it out. Now we're going for the acetone on a Q-tip. Stick it down in the hole. Leave it set for a little bit. In the meantime, I'll chuck up the wire wheel in the Dremel and go after those fuel filler inlet threads. Starting with the cup brush. Why, that's splendid. This thing, I think we'll go throw it in the vinegar. Should have done that a long time ago. I want this to fall to the bottom when it gets in there. Oh, not that way. That ain't falling to the bottom. Comes out easy though. When I put the epoxy in there, I put a bunch down in the bottom and then pushed that in till I had the depth that I want and left it there so where there wouldn't be a cavity in below it. So I've got to get that out of the bottom. Why? I think it's working perfectly. Maybe. It's perfect size for the hole. Powdery debris. Okay, granular. Granular debris. Watch your eyes. Like that. Like it! So you see that drops flush with this surface here. But we can't have that. It's as far as I dare bring the camera out. So you see this surface here. You can barely see the screw hole for the other side of the retainer. This is the surface I need to be even with. Another thing, I'm going to take and cut some notches in here into this. So I'm going to put JB Weld in the hole, smear it around the sides, slather it on this, make sure it gets down into the grooves that we cut. So once it's down into the bore, when the JB Weld cures, it'll cure into those grooves and won't come out. It won't soften under heat, and it won't soften under fuel. So I called Tony, and I said, hey, what do you think about if I stuck this into press and I squished it? Because if you squish it, then it will expand. And change the OD on this, leave the screw in it. But if I do that, I run the chance of the threads biting down on the screw and not getting the screw out, and then being kind of bindy when you go to put it together. So he thought if you just go down on the base of it where the threads are not and squish it, that it would make it out of round and out around it far enough to put it down in there. But if you do that, then you got a chance of cocking it back and forth Don't want to do that, so I think we'll just cut a couple notches in there, JB weld it, make sure it's perfectly level with the surface in there that we need, and call it done. Well, after it cures. Then it's done. Ah. That'll do, big. Now when I do this process, I can do one of two things. I can either let you see it, or I can let me see it. Which one do you think I'm gonna do? I'll let you see it when I get done. Okay, I can do this. But I gotta see it. And while we're cooking up the JB weld, these are your main fuel wells. A little different than the newer carburetors, but these are notorious for leaking, and you can see why. So we're gonna slather those a bit, prevent that from doing bad things. Okay, when I went to hit the record button, I dropped the plug after having mixed up my JB weld, which means I can now no longer use this batch of JB weld that I just mixed up, except for on the well plugs, because it's going to set up too quick. Won't hurt to put it on this one either. I only get one chance at that plug. These, no problem. What I'm doing is making sure I've got really good contact with both surfaces. Okay, it's setting up. That should do. Now I gotta go find my plug. One shot. You only get one shot. So since this wants to fall to the bottom, I'm not gonna place anything in the bottom to boost it up. I'm just gonna do a little smearage on the sides, keeping the amount on my spatula to a minimum. And we're going to make sure I get it inside these groovies while holding uncured epoxy over carburetor passages, just so you can see it on camera. So then, the slathering on the base, and having removed the JB from my spatula, attempt to drop this into the hole until I am even with the surface that I want to be even with. It's sinking. It's below grade. So if I put a bunch on the bottom of it, that forces it down in the hole, it will hydraulically force it up the sides. I believe we are there. Like that. It's still wanting to sink. One side looks low and the other side doesn't. Still have a wee bit of working time. Why am I even trying to do this camera when I don't have time? Mission accomplished. Yeah, it looks a little smeary from the top. Don't you worry. Get to that later. Back to the fuel inlet. This is the inlet off of the carburetor I removed from the car. This is one I've had sitting on the shelf. Both of those take the gasket that seals there against that surface. And the one that came on this genuine 1966 396 carburetor also takes the gasket that seats against the edge of the nut. So this one has a chamfer on it. Problem is, that gasket is not available. So as we look in the kit, it has two of them. It's a metal one here, a paper one here, in with a needle and seat set. Why am I not opening this? Because breaking this seal prohibits the return and or crediting of this carburetor kit. Alright, back to the vinegar with this. I've got some muriatic acid. It'd be a lot faster if I dropped it in there. Maybe I will. Eat it! Eat it! Uh-oh. I got some on my concrete. It's all bubbly. Give it 10 minutes. Okay, so it hasn't been quite 10 minutes. Nobody ever accused me of being patient. Oh, it's foaming pretty good there. That thing just popped right out. Second soak. That should suffice. About another less than 10 minutes later. Now we must prevent flash rusting. First we'll go give it a blow. And now the spritzing. Well, the cat didn't like the smell of that acid. I'll check to see how our thread work came out. I can see why they went to the deeper one. You definitely get more bite of thread on there. Well, a little more, because it's not threaded. Just a wee bit more, I think. I'm going to go with this one. You get more thread. Got the gasket for it. It was on the car. JB Weld all set up. There's our effected repair. I'm calling that a win. Well, it's time to open the kit because I'm having a hard time ciphering what I'm seeing here. There's original part. And this was in the mix somehow. That's all there is, and there ain't no more. Except in the float, of course. But you don't get this in the kit. Oh, of course not. You get this. Retainers, I understand. Yes, yes. One retainer has a larger bolt pattern than the other. Yes, yes. Screw pattern, if you will. However, it seems as though this is a superseded model because that's actually the seat, that's actually the needle, which the seat can be readily seen down inside. So I'm thinking maybe, I don't know what this plug is, but I'm thinking they want you to drive that down in this, put the retainer on top of it, set the needle valve in it. It's getting scary, but I ain't never done one like this before in my life. I'm theorizing this drops down into here. This here O gasket goes on it. We got a lumpy bumpy to take care of, that's why it doesn't fall down into place. And then the retainer. But do you need to remove the seat that's down there? as to seat or not to seat? That is the question. Can you see it down there? There it is. Now you can see it. Does that have to be removed? Let's get rid of the lumpy bumpies first. Okay, so the depth of it is right there. See that little scratch mark? Okay, so it does not reach the depth of the other thing. But our gasket has to seal against that edge. Great. So the gasket has to seal on that ledge right there, of which that brass is in the way. That means I'm going to have to hand carve that out of there. It never ends. It just never ends. Wow, you get a perfect angle on watching me mess this up, except for when I block it with the Dremel like this. First, I think I'll take care of the lumpy bumpy down inside the bore. Since we're working with die cast, I'm going to keep it at low speed so it don't clog up my bit. No, not yet. Of course, it could be a press fit, which would make sense. I don't think it is. Anybody for a trip to the dentist? Yep, that'll push in there. Well, this is not the tool that I wanted. It will suffice. This is what I was going to use. I was going to grind that cutoff wheel down until it matched the diameter of this, and then take that down. But this arbor doesn't fit this Dremel, and I don't know why. Oh, here we go. Make sure I'm doing this right. I don't want to cut into that landing, but I need to know where it is. By Jove, I think that's got it. Indeed I do. Watch your eyes! It looks splendid. Gotta give the rest a blow. I'm so scared. I took out my error on that. That's fixed. It doesn't want to go down. More trimming. Oh, you see how nicely that gasket lays in there. There. See how nicely that gasket lays in there. Oh, oh. I love it. This is where it gets scary because all you gotta do is screw one thing up and all of your work was for nothing. Alright, so this doesn't want to go all the way down, which means I probably have something down in here. Yes. Which means, since I have this bit on here, I think I will. Watch your eyes! Testing. There it goes. Gasket. I had put it around this thing, but it falls off. Gasket in place. So the edge of this is slightly above this, which it ought to be because you need gasket compression. So, yes. I do not know what this thing is. There's no place to allow fuel to come into there. So it can't be the seat for the needle. There are two retainers with different bolt pattern. I'm going for the wide one. It is not. It is not the wide one. It is. It is the narrow one. The screw does not want to start. Huh? Same size. Oh, that's why it doesn't want to start. Well, we were slightly off on our centering of that hole. Well, that just means I have to fix it. That's what that means. Boy, it sure doesn't seem like it should be that far off. Just gonna have to fix it. Facilitate an effective repair. Do you realize how easy it is to mess this up? Those high frequency vibrations. Testing. Oh, I can't believe it. I didn't hit the record button. Well, you didn't see it here first. Mission accomplished, Houston. A-OK. Now watch your eyes. Exactly. That ain't falling to the bottom. And while we're cooking up the JB weld, these are your main fuel wells, and you might be able to tell. And these are your main. And while we're cooking up the JB weld, park someone approach it. Fix. The one that came on this genuine numbers matching 66396 carburetor also takes the gasket that seats. And the one that came on this genuine, why am I not opening this? Because JB weld set up. There is our effected repair. Calling that a win. JB weld all set up. Here's what came out. I need something blank. Good way to lose parts. Do this. There's original part. You can see it there. At least I thought you could. Now's a perfect time for my light not to work. Do a little danger zone with the camera here. Danger. Danger, Will Robin. Oh well. You didn't see it here first.